It's official. Bud Light is no longer America's #1 beer, a title it's held since 2001. This story began after transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney posted a promotional video that revealed a personalized can that Bud Light had sent her. That video quickly went viral, and conservatives called for a boycott against Bud Light for working with a trans person. In the following weeks, the brewer put 2 marketing executives on leave and said it would stick to sports and music marketing in the future. But that attempt to wade out of the controversy garnered criticism from the left that the company should have stood by its spokesperson and the LGBTQ+ community. Since the controversy, sales have declined dramatically, down 24% year over year. 2 months ago, Bud Light was the best-selling beer in the US with 10% market share. Today, that number is 7%. It is now second to the new bestseller, Modelo Especial. Meanwhile, shares in the parent company Anheuser-Busch have fallen roughly 15% since the video was posted, and that's compared to the S&P 500, which gained 7% during the same period. Scott, what's your initial reaction to this?
I was disappointed. I was really discouraged, just because it strikes me that our nation has become, we've now politicized beer. And you could argue, well, they politicized it, but I found I looked at the TikTok videos and I thought they were lovely. And it just, it kind of indicates something ugly about America, that just because a transgender influencer does a promotional video, that offends you so much and you have such a disdain for this community that you decide to stop buying the beer. It's just,
yeah.
I just felt really like heavy when I read this. I thought, that's really where we are as a nation. What's funny is the #1 beer, Modelo, is actually owned by AB InBev in all markets outside of the U.S. In the U.S., it's owned by Constellation Brands. I would argue, I was even thinking of looking at AB InBev because I wonder if the stock's been overpunished here. But what it also indicates is that when Colin Kaepernick bent a knee or refused to bend a knee or whatever it is, or bent a knee for the national anthem, viewership, I guess, in the NFL went down, but then it rebounded. Bud Light has a lot of substitutes. And this is pulse marketing, but I wonder if a lot of people stop drinking, not so much because they're anti-trans, at least I hope not, but they just don't want to be involved with anything that is politicized one way or the other. They don't care. And two, there's so many substitutes. Beer is just, you're dealing with you're on such a fragile foundation. CNN's ratings down 60%. You think, oh my God, how could they have fucked up so badly? People were looking for an excuse to stop watching cable news.
Right.
Because every other cable station is down. MSNBC brags it's only down, I think, 17 or 24%. Fox is down more. Beer is built on a really weak foundation now, because for the past 10 plus years, people have been moving away from beer to spirits. I can validate this, Ed. I can validate this. Christ, even gin is making a comeback. And it's hurting beer. And so when you have a ton of substitutes, when people are sort of looking for a reason to switch beverage altogether, and then you have a community, or you have the U.S., which is just so politicized right now and seems to be so angry, the whole thing kind of bummed me out. From an investment standpoint, I thought I'm going to look at AB InBev because I think it's been overpunished. They have such a diversified portfolio. I just wonder if this stock might be kind of oversold. So anyways, I've been looking at AB InBev and trying to understand its valuation and its prospects.
Yeah. I mean, when I originally saw that AB InBev owns Modelo, I didn't understand the full context, which you brought up, which is that actually they only own the non-US business of Modelo. And my initial reaction was this boycott is going to be useless because they're just redirecting dollars to the same place. That's not the case. But it does bring up an interesting conversation, which is that AB InBev owns countless other beer brands like Stella Artois, Michelob Ultra, Natty Light. They own all these beers. So it feels like to do an effective boycott of this brand is difficult because you need to know the laundry list of brands that
you need to stop drinking beer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I guess the question is how consequential will this boycott actually be in the long term? Do you think that the conservatives who are upset about this will care about this enough to keep that laundry list front of mind?
No, they'll move on to the next hateful weirdness.
Right.
But the thing is, a decline in market share from 10 to 7% in CPG is a
Right.
meltdown. I mean, that's a total meltdown. I mean, look at that's a 30% decrease in sales. I mean, that's just a meltdown.
Yeah.
So will it rebound? I don't know. But this is, this is a five-car alarm when you're a CPG company and you lose 30% of your share.
Yeah.
So it'll be really interesting to track it and see if it comes back. And even I said this on Pivot today.
Hmm.
I was thinking about right when this happened and the controversy broke out about taking a selfie of myself with a Bud Light and then posting it to Instagram and Twitter. And then I thought, okay, beyond my desire to virtue signal and show my progressive bona fides, am I just making things worse?
Hmm.
Is the problem that we have politicized brands and people just don't want to be involved in any brand that for whatever reason unfairly, has been politicized?
Yeah.
And so I thought, am I just making things worse? Am I just getting people angry for whatever reason, putting more transgender people in harm's way from bullshit hate? This is such a small community of people,
Hmm.
and it's getting a disproportionate amount of bullshit and hate from people.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, not that I don't want to say they're unimportant, but this is where we're going to allocate. On the far left, we've decided that fighting for their rights is, agenda number one. And then on the far right, that needs to be the subject of your hate. Here's an idea. Just let them fucking be. I mean, why are we going to the mat in any direction on this? They deserve the same rights as anybody else. They get to drink beer. They get to be influencers. Like, where is all this coming in? Anyways, I'm totally verklempt. That's the wrong word. I'm totally out of sorts about this, Ed. I don't know what to think. What do you think of this?
I agree with everything you said. One thing that I wanted to get your take on is, as a brand person, was it a mistake to have a transgender person promote the brand? Do brand managers and brand executives need to take into account the fact that trans issues are massively political issues? And the argument's pretty clear here. It's like, we need to advocate for these people who are marginalized and discriminated against and treated horribly, as we've seen from this whole pushback. Or do brand executives need to say, okay, well, despite that, my job is to make the company money, so I just need to never touch anything like this? Technically, it was one of the biggest branding failures of the year. It's horrible to say that because, they did nothing wrong. But I wanted to get your take on that.
So if the question is, did they make a mistake using a transgender influencer for any of their marketing? I would argue the mistake was not standing behind her.
Right.
And that is to not include members of the transgender community in influencer marketing because you're worried about the politicization. I hate to say it, you need to make that judgment call. And I can understand someone saying, you know what, it's too hot right now. We're not going to do it. We're not in the business of advancing the rights of transgender people. And whatever that says about us, it says about us, but we're just not, we don't want to touch it. I think I could understand that decision.
Yep.
Where they fucked up, and I know the people from AB InBev, and they're really good people and really smart. It's a really well-run company. Where they fucked up is believing that if they backed away from it or apologized, it would mean anything to the crazies. It doesn't. The crazies aren't there to try and change your behavior. The crazies are there to find reasons to flex their hate muscles.
Yep.
And this was an opportunity for AB InBev to say, we stand behind our brothers and sisters across the entire spectrum. Full stop. We stand. This is an impressive young woman, and we were happy to send her our great Bud Light. We welcome anyone into our community that enjoys Bud Light, and we enjoyed the video. And more power to your sister. That's what they should have said. Instead, they backed down and said, "Yeah, I mean, they just could." It's not the crisis that fucks you. It's how you handle it. Mm-hmm. And this is where they screwed up. You need, they just should have said, well, of course we sent it to her. Why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we? We sent this beer and asked people to make videos. I think they sent them to like either dozens or hundreds of people. Of course we did. Of course we did. We're an American company, and America believes in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We're not going to get in the way of anyone's pursuit of happiness. And instead, they like back down, which bought them, curry no favor with the crazies and only upset everyone. So, a crisis turns into crises based on how you handle it. Mm-hmm. And they missed this one.
Mm-hmm. And then what do you think about the beer category as a whole? I mean, you mentioned gin's on the way up. Hard seltzer is also on the way up. The total US beer volume last year declined 3%. And then there's also this demographic trend, which is that young people don't actually like drinking that much now. Gen Z drinks 20% less alcohol per capita than millennials did at their age. The share of college-age adults who don't drink has grown from 20% to 28% in the past 2 decades. It feels like beer is on the way out. Do you think that this whole controversy is going to worsen things for the category?
Well, again, people are looking for an excuse to abandon a sector in structural decline. So when CNN airs the Trump town hall and it angers a lot of people, they were looking for an excuse to stop watching cable news, right? Yeah. When people feel like a brand in beer it gets too politicized, they're looking for an excuse to stop drinking beer. I don't know what the trends are across drinks. What I do see as a trend, and of course, I know everything about young people and consumption and drug abuse because I just came back from Summit at Sea. But what struck me is that
can you describe what you observed at Summit at Sea?
Well, Summit at Sea is basically the way to think of it is Learning Man, and that is they take over a ship, a Virgin cruise ship, and all day long they have people speaking on all manner of subjects, usually AI, of course. Oh, we're all dead. The robots are taking over. Give me a fucking break. And then people like me, and then more interesting, credible people like Simon Sinek, and then at night, we go to see DJs and do drugs and drink and meet new people, and everyone's very friendly. A lot of hugging, and have dinner with random strangers who used to own a social media influencer agency are now pivoting into executive coaching. So we need to produce more executives to give all these young people jobs.
Oh, my God.
But I couldn't get over the number of people who have altered their intake from alcohol to drugs. And I'm not talking about meth or even MDMA or Molly. It was the kind of the combo, the peanut butter and chocolate combo I saw was chocolate mushrooms, and then you kind of nurse a drink. Mm-hmm. And I can speak from experience that mushroom chocolates is in fact a good high. 3 people offered me mushroom chocolates. The third time I said yes. And then I went back to my cabin. I got even less social and watched that video of those rhesus monkeys attacking a box of Cheetos. And I watched that video like 85 times, and Ed, it was wonderful. It was wonderful. And I thought to myself, okay. All these studies are coming out. I'm obsessed with this guy, Dr. Peter Attia. Dr. Attia, if you're out there and you want to come on the podcast, please come on. I'm thinking a lot more about my health. I've always been fairly strong. I've always been fairly fit, but now I need to figure out my diet and my alcohol consumption. And my weak point is I drink too much alcohol. Mm-hmm. And all of these studies are coming out saying, okay, alcohol just is really not good for you. And I like the idea of moving to edibles, THC edibles, or even mushroom chocolate and drastically reducing my intake of alcohol. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if that's a healthier way to go. And it struck me that these young, very informed, very kind of information age millennials and Gen Zs, that's where they appear to be moving. They still drink, but they'll have 1 or 2 drinks, not 5, and they'll chase it with mushroom chocolate or edibles. So I think the whole category of drinks is probably, as you referenced, probably going to see some structural decline. Monkey videos! That's the summary here. Monkey videos.